It's saying we're live on YouTube.
That does.
Now you guys are going to be on the internet too.
Uh-oh.
You're going to have a movie of yourselves.
No, thank you.
That's good. Now we just got to wait for Regis.
Can you still hear me?
Yep.
No.
You can use a space bar if it's the last thing you click to like unmute and mute.
Go confusing them.
I know. Can't hear you.
You can hear me now.
Yep.
Yep, there's Bob. He's going to be for the first 3 items on the agenda for Skyworks.
Hello, Don. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Bob.
Does Regis know what he's doing?
Yeah. He said he was having his daughter come over to help.
Oh, okay.
And Mike and Linda, you're here for the James Columbro variance, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Do you know if Jacqueline is going to join us also?
She wasn't sure with her work schedule. She is making every effort, but if it gets to be, time, just go ahead and I'll let her know.
Okay. And then James is going to join us also?
Yes, he should be joining momentarily.
Okay.
Yep, there she is.
And, I'm going to read some opening remarks since we have most people here. And it's welcome to the City of Brooklyn Board of Zoning Appeals. Those of you present are likely here because of a determination by the building department. You have been given guidance on our proceedings in the application packet provided to you. Please remember, this board is composed of volunteer citizens serving without financial compensation. The charter and ordinance of the City of Brooklyn established their authority. If you're planning on speaking, I will need you to state your name and your address. This will serve as an oath and affirmation that you'll tell the truth before the board and make a record of your attendance. Okay? All right, we have James here also. We can't hear you, James. You'll have to unmute.
Unmute there.
There you go. Okay, we can hear you. So we've just asked that during any proceedings that is not addressing your agenda item, if you could please just mute your microphone. And then once we open it up to the public on your agenda item, you can unmute. I would ask one at a time though, okay?
Oh dear. To whom are we speaking?
I am Dawn. I'm the building department secretary. Purple
Okay.
shirt.
Hi, Dawn.
Hi.
And was there a question addressed to me or some other?
I was just
participant?
making sure ensuring you can hear us and we can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. That's good. I can hear you I have an external speaker because I'm hearing impaired.
Okay, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Perfect. And hi, Nick, how are you?
I'm doing well. How's everyone? I logged in from I just got off of another Zoom, so it has my organizational title on there.
That's all right. I know who you are. Dave, it seems that I don't know if Regis is going to be joining us or if he's having difficulty.
Call him on, we had his telephone number finally, so why don't you call him?
Okay, I'll call him real quick. Hold on one second.
David. David Coulter. Let's see what happens. David. Mute.
Good evening, everyone. While Dawn is trying to contact Regis, I thought I'd introduce myself. My name is Kevin Butler. If you don't know me, I'm the law director for the City of Brooklyn. And so to the extent that I can be helpful to any of the board members this evening, or staff, of course, who already know this, please feel free to ask any questions you might have, and I'd be glad to answer, okay? Thanks.
All right, I have Regis on speakerphone in my office. Is that okay?
Who you talk to, them or me?
Can you guys hear him?
Yeah, I hear him.
Okay, perfect.
I can hear him.
Enthusiastic there.
All right,
You ready to start the meeting?
I am, sir.
All right, you want to call a roll?
I certainly will. Regis Barrett,
Here.
Wally Parker,
Here.
Earl Bloom,
Here,
Craig Farkas,
Here.
Nick De Leon.
Here.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Everyone's here. The next item on the agenda, Regis, because I'm not sure if you have it in front of you, is the approval of the minutes for September 17th of 2020.
Okay, approval of the meetings. Don't want to approve them. I'm going to abstain
Okay,
since I haven't seen them.
okay. Do I have a motion from any other?
I
People on
move
the-
to approve.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second,
Second,
Thank you. To approve, Regis,
Yeah,
Wally,
yes.
Earl,
Yes,
Craig Farkas,
yes.
Dick DeLeon.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. All right, the first item on the agenda, if you don't mind, Regis, I'll just go ahead and read everything off, and then you guys can go into your discussion if that's okay with you.
go ahead.
All right, thank you. The first item on the agenda is a request from Brilliance Electric Signs for a 1 foot 8 inch variance to the maximum height of a 16 foot for a freestanding sign for Skyworks Equipment Rental at 8650 Brook Park Road, permanent parcel 433-19010, docket 1/2021 2A. I'll give it over to the board.
I guess I have a question on this.
Comments about
I would like to ask, what is the hardship to meet the zoning code as far as square foot area and height to the company?
Well, for visibility on that busy street, it is fitting with the other signs near it and did not want to appear minimal compared to the other businesses with pole signs in that
Well,
area.
a 40 square foot sign of 4 feet by 10 foot is certainly visible.
Yeah, it fits the ratio of their logo. And this is how the company had planned it out. And to shorten it by 10 feet, we'd also have to shorten the height to keep the ratio together for their logo, their name, everything else.
I'm not suggesting shorten it by 10 feet. 4 feet by 10 feet would, I think, just shortening it 2 feet, I think would be adequate.
Right. To keep the ratio, we'd have to shorten it by less than that and shorten the height somewhat to make the math work out to 40 square feet. 12 feet, I didn't think was a unreasonable request. That's 1 foot on each side for that size sign.
And what about the height?
Are you going to be using the existing pole? Is that going to be the reason for the height?
The pole would be new, but we are trying to stay in line with the other signs around there. When we designed this, we didn't even realize it would require a variance, but at the same time, a height variance of 1 foot 8 inches in the big picture of almost an 18-foot sign. Again, I thought we would leave the design that was approved alone and come before the board.
Pardon me, Mr. Kunzen, this is Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Mr. Columbro, would you mind muting your line? We're getting a little feedback from your line. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm working with Regis. He got it in. We're just trying to work on unmuting. Sorry.
While you're waiting to get Regis back, let me add a little bit to this and kind of give a little bit more about the history too. This was the Peterbilt facility prior to Skyworks moving in, so they were able to use the same sign location
100%.
as Peterbilt had at that time. It's a little bit shorter than the previous sign location and a little bit larger as you know, too, but it's still at the same location. So historically, the board has given variances along this stretch here. Right next door is the Golden Corral, which has actually a much larger sign
Right.
than this one being proposed here too. And mostly along here, they're kind of in line. When Menards went in, the same thing. They got a much larger sign too. So it's really pretty proportionate with the trend that has been set there along Brook Park Road.
That was actually my question. Had other neighboring businesses had variances done to their signage? And you answered it. Thank you.
Is this sign going to be changing or advertising, or just a basic sign as far as your logo and name?
It's a static sign. It will appear as you see it on the drawing.
Okay.
I was down there and looked at it, and I don't know that the request for the variance is going to make much difference at all. So I'd make a motion that we grant the variance and go ahead home.
I'll second that.
To approve, this is for the 1 foot 8 inch variance. To approve the variance, Regis?
Well, I'm sorry, may I interrupt?
Sure.
Yes.
Can we ask for any additional discussion from any members of the board before that motion is voted up or down?
I'm good.
He's asking for 3 different variances. Should we?
Go ahead,
report
anybody.
each one individually?
They're going to be voted on individually, yes. Molly, did you have
Okay.
any concerns?
Here's Don as if there's no additional discussion, so I suspect he could proceed with the vote. Thanks.
Thank you. To approve the 1 foot 8 inch variance to the maximum height of 16 feet, Regis Barrett,
Yes.
Wally Parker,
Yes.
Earl Blum,
No.
Craig Farkas,
Yes.
Nick De Leon.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request.
Okay, well,
Go ahead. Next item on the agenda is a request from Brilliant Electric Signs for an 8 square foot variance to the maximum freestanding sign area of 40 square feet for Skyworks equipment rental at 8650 Brook Park Road, permanent parcel 433191010, docket 1/20/21 2B. Regis?
anybody got any comments on?
I got a question for Dave. The Golden Corral sign in that's right up the street, what's the size of that one in comparison to what Brilliant Electric is looking for?
I forget exactly how big it is, but it's probably almost close to double the size. That was a large, it's a much larger one there. It's a little bit shorter to the ground, but it's a much larger sign than this one.
Along the lines of Napa?
I don't know that I researched that one, Craig.
Right.
I know for sure the Menard sign that's out front, that pole sign is much bigger.
Oh, yeah,
If I
that's
remember right,
huge.
that's probably close to 80. That's easily double the size of this one also.
Right.
Yeah, I could attest for those couple, and this one being just a little bit larger than the one was there, while also being shorter than the one that was there.
Anybody else got anything to comment?
No,
How about Dave? What do you suggest? Dave?
I'm for the variances if as they're written. If you, I don't see any objections with them. Like I said before, historically, they've been granted along there, and it's a lot smaller than other ones, right there close by to it. So.
Yeah, I've been by there quite a few times. I don't think there's going to be much of a problem with the sign if it's there, and with the other variants. They spent a lot of money on that place, getting it cleaned up and everything. So I'd like to accommodate them as much as possible without putting a bind on the city. I lost the sound.
No, you haven't lost the sound. We're sitting in silence. Any other board members have any questions, comments?
no, I'm satisfied.
Okay.
No, if the neighboring signs are quite larger, I don't see why.
I make a motion, on this, we pass it.
I second.
Perfect. To approve the 8 square foot variance to the maximum freestanding sign area of 40 square feet. Regis Barrett,
Yes.
Wally Parker,
Yes.
Earl Bloom,
Yes,
Craig Farkas,
Yes,
Nick De Leon.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a request from Brilliant Electric Signs for an 8-foot 8-inch variance to the maximum distance from the right-of-way for Skyworks equipment rental at 8650 Brook Park Road, permitted parcel 433-19010, docket 1-2021-2C. Regis, it's over to you.
Say it again.
Does the board have any comments or questions regarding this
I-
variance?
I'm not getting a very good signal up here tonight.
Okay.
just say yes.
Do you have any comments or questions regarding the 8-foot 8-inch variance to the maximum distance to the right-of-way?
I would ask, I'm not a member of the board, but for the purposes of creating the record, Mr. Kunzen, can you describe the rationale for requesting the variance?
Yes, I can. I had supplied photos, I don't know if they're available to you, of the existing footer. That footer is 15 feet to center line. And we are going to reuse that base. It's obvious it's in good condition. It's more than capable of holding this sign. It held the Peterbilt sign. So with a 12-foot long sign, that brings it a little bit more inside the required distance from the right of way. It's just because we're reusing that base.
And I'd like to add to that the right of way along Brook Park Road is quite wide, so the sidewalk is set back from the street, much further than anywhere else. So this is not anywhere close to the street, even though it is closer to the right of way than permitted, and also in keeping with alignment with all the other signs too. If we were to try to make them put the sign in a location that is proper with the code exactly. It would put it kind of in front of their building and their parking lot. So I'm also in favor of this variance approval.
Anybody else got anything to say?
I'm fine with it.
I'm good with it.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
To approve?
The variance.
I'll second
Yep.
it.
To approve 8-foot 8-inch variance to the maximum distance from the right of way for Skyworks equipment rental at 8650 Brook Park Road. To approve, Regis Barrett,
Yeah.
Wally Parker,
Yes.
Earl Blum,
Yes,
Craig Farkas,
Yes.
Nick De Leon.
Yes.
Did I hear you, Nick? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. All right, next item on the agenda. Bob, thank you. I'll be in contact with you tomorrow.
Thank you as always.
Perfect, thank you. Next item on the agenda is a request from James Columbro for a 1-foot height variance to the maximum allowable height of 3 feet for a living fence in front or side yard at 7415 Delvank Drive, permanent parcel 431-23048, dockets 1/2021-1. Turn it over to the board. Or Dave.
I just unmuted my microphone, Dawn. Am I on?
Yeah, let's let the board go first, and then we'll,
Oh.
once they have discussion, then we'll have you come in, okay?
Again,
ahead.
please?
We're gonna have the board have a discussion first and have the building commissioner speak, and then we'll have you join in, okay? The board's gonna go first.
Your agenda. Thank you.
Would you guys like to go ahead and give the rundown on this one before you open it up? Are you able to hear me okay?
You're crackling a bit, but it should be okay.
Better now?
Yeah.
No?
Similar.
Really? Yeah. I'm plugged in too.
No worries.
You down in your man cave or?
No, I'm actually right next to my main hub. Plugged in directly too.
Yeah, you're better now.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
you're coming in clear enough where we can make out what you're saying. There's just a bit of crackling out there.
Okay, just let me know if I don't. I hate to carry on if nobody's hearing me. But anyway, here at this location, the neighbor had lodged a complaint that these bushes that are right directly alongside of her driveway were at a height where she couldn't see over them to back out of her driveway. So our code, permits maximum height in this type of location for a living fence of 3 feet. And the Columbros were cited to do that. And then once they eventually had done that too. And as it sits right now, it's low enough that you can see backing out of the driveway and no fear of running into pedestrians or vehicles backing out. So that's our biggest issue, or really our only issue, with this. And as it sits right now, it is in compliance, but Mr. Colombo would like to let that come back up, I guess, to about 4 feet. I did get a call after the notifications went out from the neighbor regarding it, wanted to know whether she should appear. She thought that she might, but she is against the granting of this variance, so that you're all aware. And she thinks that the 3 feet, is sufficient. Where they're at right now is, safe for her to back out. And that should really cover everything on this. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, obviously, the key is if the neighbor is satisfied with it, but the problem with this is it's something that's gonna grow constantly. It's gonna have to be constantly cut. Are they gonna keep it trimmed down? I mean, as it grows?
In addition, when I looked at it, I saw that the bushes go all the way to the back of the house, and the code says 3 feet high in the side and front yard. And the bushes on the side had not been trimmed at all, so I can see where it certainly is a safety concern if the bushes get too high when she's backing out, and a child walking by on the street or a car coming down the street, she wouldn't see it, and it could be a problem.
Did anybody pick it and look at the width of that driveway? Because when she pulls up alongside there, it's just almost impossible to get out of the car. If you open the door, it's into the hedges, into the
The
fence.
bushes are right on top of the driveway. There's no doubt about it. I don't know what the property
Yeah.
line is there, but
I don't know. I don't either, but I would rather see him cut that down below the 3 feet line so that when it comes back to start growing back up, that it'll have a room for some growth. Right now, he's cut it at 3 feet. Anything else, he's would have to have a variance even to let it grow. So I not in favor of granting the variance at this time, you know.
And as I said, I believe in reading the code that 3 feet applies for the whole length of the bushes. Along the side of the
Yes.
house too.
Earl, you are correct in that. It actually should be 3 feet. The 3 foot maximum does
The whole length.
state that alongside of the house and the side yard that goes to. You know, we try not to. The issue at hand was backing out of the driveway, and that the neighbor was okay with the bushes along the side of the house. But yeah, by rights, it really should be 3 feet also there. And that part, I would be in favor of granting a variance for along the side of the house if you want to, you know, accommodate that way.
now the neighbor agreed with the 4 foot is height or the 3 foot height.
The neighbor does not want them above 3 foot high, you know, in the front yard. Where
Right.
she, you know, is not able to see.
I can see that.
In the side yard though, along the house, she is okay with that being higher.
Right. Okay.
You know, there's not the safety concern there next to the house.
With the bushes adjacent to the driveway, would she have an issue with it? Because it did have about 8 feet from what I seen in the photos, where it was clear, where there was no bushes, whether they were 3 feet or 4 feet that she would have to see oncoming traffic. If those were shortened, because if not, they're really going to have to be dropped, because that 3 feet to maintain that is going to be extremely difficult. How about shortening the length versus the height? Because it would allow a whole car length in the driveway with clear vision to the oncoming traffic if the bushes weren't as long as they were along the side of the driveway.
Well, the bushes extend almost to the sidewalk.
Well, I mean, the photos that I've seen with the car parked in there allowed about 3/4 of a car from the sidewalk to the bushes. I'm saying if those were shortened maybe 5 feet in length.
Yeah, it's about 5 feet.
Yeah, then she would have clear vision without having to drop it down 3 feet. I mean, I just don't see the maintenance of it. Like it was suggested, they would have to be cut down to about 1.5 feet, 2 feet to get them to 3 feet to be maintained regularly. At this point, a week, 2 weeks into the spring, they'll be 4 feet.
Some of the pictures that I saw before they were trimmed, those bushes were pretty doggone high and pretty full. They were overlapping into the driveway next door and everything. I think at 3 feet, they're gonna have a hard time keeping it at that level. It's gonna be a constant trim down as the bushes grow.
I do have some pictures. If anyone needed them, I could put them up on screen.
Yeah, that'll be helpful. Thank you.
Is there a question?
No, Mr. Clement, no one has asked you a question at this point. The secretary is going to put up photos for the board to look at, okay?
Okay, it's my understanding that the commissioner provided you with a photo, but I put all of the photos that I had into a PowerPoint. Do you have that?
I do.
It's just one picture after another. It's not, there's no, oh, there you go. There's a new one.
So this is the one that the commissioner, I believe, took. I think this is the PowerPoint. It's going to take a second to load. It's rather large.
Yes.
I have to share a different screen. Hold on one second. All right. You see this PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay.
You want a running narrative with this? No,
No, it should be all right.
that's the original.
That's before, yeah.
That's before. That's 4 feet. Being still unsatisfied. That's an important picture. That's the difference between 4 and 5. Killing me.
Just
Alright.
looking at it right now, from my point.
Who's talking?
Anybody hearing me?
Yep.
Yes,
Me, Regis.
Yes.
Just seeing the way the fence is right now, I think we should just not grant a variance. It's if you look at it right now, it's about right at the base of the windows on her door.
Right at the base of what?
And
I'm sorry.
the top of the edges is right by the bottom of the windows on the door. Sure, if they get another foot higher, she's going to be have to look through the fence.
Oh,
Don, I think it would be important right now if
my turn.
there's going to be anyone from the applicant's perspective who's going to speak. So Mr. Columbro and anyone else who's going to speak on behalf of Mr. Columbro, they should be sworn in. So would you mind administering an oath unless you already did that?
I did that prior to you coming in. I read the oath and asked them to state their name and address prior to speaking. I can redo it.
Okay, so anyone who will speak has been administered that oath?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
They were
that's-
all on.
Okay, thanks, Don. I must have missed that when I got on. Thank you.
So whoever is speaking deserves an oath, Mr. Butler?
Testimony, Mr. Columbro, testimony at these administrative hearings is supposed to be taken by oath, under oath. That's correct.
Okay.
under 2506 of the revised code. Yeah, that's why we administer oaths. Ostensibly, you have been administered an oath as well, since you're the in this particular case. Is that
So
right?
who's, besides myself and Michael Colombro, who else is speaking in this with regard to this?
Well, only Mr. Kalsar would be the other person who'd have to take an oath.
Mr. Colsar.
Yeah, he's the building commissioner, and he's already taken an oath.
Okay,
And
that's David, right?
that's right.
Okay.
And all the board members don't need to do that because they're not offering any testimony. They're
Thank
just
you.
asking questions and making a vote. All right, I hope that helps. Sorry for the interruption.
So, hello,
Yeah,
Mr.
you can speak, Mr. Colombro, if you'd like to.
again, please.
Would you like to add a comment?
Would I like to add a comment?
Yes. Speak.
Oh,
in
yeah. I've got a whole song and dance I'd like to go through. I've done this in my head about a dozen times, and hopefully I don't miss anything. Thank you for the opportunity to present this. You keep speaking to the specific ordinance that outlines a living fence, and it was under that ordinance, City of Brooklyn zoning ordinance planning, and the citation is way down here. I mean, how important can this be? 117.15 accessory use regulations. We have to go all the way down to living fences in subsection 9. One, in my humble opinion, the bushes have been there forever. It's a hedge. It's not a living fence, in my humble opinion. And the whole notion of these, forgive me, that the zoning ordinance should be applied to this particular situation escapes me. For one, the zoning were passed in 2006, and somewhere I found some regulation where zoning shouldn't be applied retroactively. Here, let me just say a few things. One of your members was mentioning a hazard, or that she can't see. There's no question that this arises out of a complaint of the next door neighbor about the hedges. I respectfully disagree with any kind of hazard involved in this thing. We're talking about a private driveway, and people that come up in that driveway, they see what they're coming into. They are obligated to operate their vehicles in a safe manner, with paying attention to whatever obstructions there are. Here. All right. Let's just go to it. November 2 is when I first got involved in this. And on November 2, Marty from the building commission asked me to come out and have a meeting with Miss Guzman, Nikita. So I arrive at the place, and this is the conversation that we had. She says to me, "You can see how I have a narrow driveway." And in my head, I'm thinking, that's not my problem. And then she goes on and says, "When I drive up my driveway, I can't open my driver's side door." Again, that's not my problem. And she had already asked the tenant, which is my son, to trim the bushes, and he did. But she says she wanted them cut down, like removed. I says, well, that's not going to happen. And Marty at the time had with him the ordinance that indicates 3 feet. He shows it to me, and I look at the bush. I look at the ordinances. No way. These things are about 5 feet, and they were getting a little unsightly on the top. I says, you cut these things down halfway, you're going to kill them. you might as well just tell me to take the bushes out. And that's not going to happen. So then Miss Guzman, Nikita, says, come with me. So she walks me down the sidewalk to the property that abuts mine on the northeast side. And she says, see the fence that they have, how it begins at the edge of their house and goes to the back? All I'm asking is the same consideration that they have provided to you. I told her she's mixing apples and oranges for one thing. And then it dawns on me what she really wants is she wants access to my property. She wants the airspace from the line on up. Now, if you go to those pictures that I showed you, there's one great shot of her driveway all the way back. I says, Miss Guzman, I've already given you consideration. Your garage is cockeyed. When the previous owners had their F-150, they couldn't park it in the garage, so they added a little addition. And the forms that create that driveway are on my property. If you go all the way straight back, the very corner, the very northeast corner front end of her garage is on my land. Maybe only about 3 or 4 inches, and I'm not complaining. So long as we don't change the meets and bounds description of that property, I don't mind. It's all right. Oh, I just lost the video. Where are you? There you are. Okay. So she says,
Still here.
my garage says, no, I just want you to realize that your property line is dead smack square on the edge of your driveway. And whatever from that edge to the sky you can have. My bushes were there when you came there. You know, you bought into this place. The Guzmans bought their property in February 19th. February of 2019. For all of 2019, those bushes didn't cause a problem. And all of 2020, they didn't cause a problem. Now they seem to cause a problem because she can't open her door. And I disagree with any one of the board members that think that it's a hazard, because from the edge of those bushes to the street, you've got the entire apron plus a car length. And whatever caution one would take to come in, whether it be her licensee or invitees, they see the bush, they know, and, you know, forgive me, but the zoning board of Brooklyn is supposed to be looking out for the neighborhood, all of us, the collective, and I'm all for that. But we're not supposed to be protecting the stupid, those that are careless and choose to back out of that drive without looking both ways. That's not your function. That's not my function. That's the function of the thing. I defy anybody to tell me that my negligence causes an accident by not keeping my hedge down to 3 feet. 3 feet is ridiculous. So on November 2, when I met Ms. Guzman and Marty, I says, I will cut them down. I will cut them to the limit of what my hedge trimmers will allow and what the bush will permit. You saw the pictures at the beginning and then at 4 feet. This is a foot. I couldn't do this with a trimmer. I had to use hedgers. I cut that thing in half. These are limbs. This is not a living fence. Now, let me ask you this. If they were poplar trees along the way or spiraling junipers, would we call this a living fence? I don't think so. And the fact that the Guzmans came to it, now they complain. Somewhere I've read somewhere that you can't complain about a nuisance after you've come to it. You can't buy a house next to a sewage treatment facility and then complain of the smell, or buy a lot in Brooklyn underneath the wires and complain of the buzz from the electricity going through it. She came to this, she has a narrow driveway. That's not my problem, and it shouldn't be the problem of the board. My problem lies in that the property has been diminished, the value has been diminished, the beauty of that neighborhood has been diminished. Nobody has complained about it ever. And the purpose of the board, I should think, would be to accommodate the neighbors and to develop the neighborhood the way that it has. Moving right along, though, notice also that when Marty cited me for the violation under the zoning code, he didn't use section 13, where is it? 1360, which is the property and maintenance. Every year for the past however many years, Brooklyn has required a renter's license. I have applied for and gotten a renter's license. My problem here now is going to be Marty's stuck between a rock and a hard place. He's kind of a policeman and a social worker. He's your customer service rep. At the same time, he has to inspect and report these things, these violations, and answer the complaints. If he's now it's in front of him. I'm asking for a renter's license again, and if my bushes are more than 3 feet, what's he going to do? He has to deny me the license, I imagine. I don't want to put him in that bind. I don't want to be in that bind. And so I'm asking for a variance of 1 foot going up. Now, here's what really irks me. You should have as part of the record of this hearing that you should have a part of the record, the building plans for that garage, the call log from Marty as he interacts with Guzman. What else? All of the emails back and forth, which clearly indicate my angst with Ms. Guzman trying to accomplish her agenda, i.e. use of my airspace across the line, which she's not entitled to. I didn't give it to her. By using the city's resources to enforce it for her agenda. Those bushes are not a nuisance to anybody. They are an inconvenience to her and to her alone. Why are we expending city funds to enforce an obscure living fence rule on a property that's been there before time immemorial? Anyway, it's Marty's log. If you go through Marty's log, you'll see that he contacts me. He's trying. I cut him back. Then he contacts her. Is that okay? Evidently, she's calling the shots because she doesn't like the 4 foot length I put it to. He emails me and the voicemail of the 10th. Where's my calendar? His voicemail to me of the 10th, he gives me a deadline of a Friday to have them done. Hey, and so I did. Now, to the board, please understand that my compliance with cutting them back to 3 feet is not a capitulation or an acquiescence in the orders. I don't think it's appropriate. I did that to curry some favor with you all, that I am, in fact, I'm not obstinate in this, but I'm willing to make a reasonable accommodation. Evidently, this reasonable accommodation doesn't work for Mrs. Guzman. She wants it 3 feet. She wants them gone, I imagine. But when I brought them down to 4, the pictures are clear. She can see fine. I respectfully disagree with whichever board member thinks that another foot is going to block her driver's side window. Again, that's not our problem. She has to take care of when she uses her car, as any invitee licensee who comes upon the premises would. So Marty's logs indicates, hey, she's calling the shot. Marty's got no choice. She's got to cite me. I bring it down to the 3 foot length because, frankly, I don't want to be out there in the snow cutting them down after you deny me the variance, which I don't think you should. I think you should consider the variance not only reasonable, but acceptable within your own rules, that when practicable and to do otherwise, to not grant me the variance is going to cause difficulty. It will. I've lost value. I think that the last picture or the very first picture on my PowerPoint, that's the danger. Somebody's going to walk the sidewalk and fall into them and impale themselves on what is truly a limb. These bushes are old. This is old growth. So, in summary, 1, I don't think the ordinance even applies. 2, I don't think it's really a living fence. 3, these have been here forever. We're taking up somebody else's agenda. And 4, you all hopefully would be looking out for the city of Brooklyn and developing those neighborhoods the way they should be developed. Our neighborhood there on Del Bank is is just fine. I've got more arguments, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. You've got a myriad of resolutions. You could find it doesn't apply and let Mr. Columbro go ahead and take care of his hedge and be accommodating, in which case the Guzmans can have, if they have a cause of action against me, bring it. But shouldn't be the forum to litigate it. If you think that it is, then you have the authority to tell her, to not worry about the bush. Hand me the variance and see what. I defer to my son, Michael. If you've got something to add, I yield the floor to him. Mike or Dawn, you want to do that, or can I? I don't know how to switch windows. Mine's the only one that seems to be yellowed.
It's yellow because you're speaking.
Ah,
Yeah, Michael, Mike, you live at the address. Mr. Columbro, what is your address? You didn't state that for the record.
my address?
Yes, sir.
Oh, James and Linda Columbro. We're the owners of 7415 Delbank. We live at 4726 Meadow Lane in Westlake, Ohio.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time, members of the board. Again, my name is Michael, and I am the resident of 7415 Delbank Drive here in Brooklyn. The only point I would like you to consider in your decision whether to grant the variance, as the homeowner, it is my responsibility to maintain a certain appearance in the neighborhood. You know, homeowners are supposed to keep their grasses cut. They are supposed to make sure that fresh mulch is put down, and reasonable homeowner maintenance should be taken care of. Yeah. And if I am required to keep those bushes in the front of the house at a certain length, I will make every effort to ensure that they are taken care of to that measure. But with regard to the variance, there are 8 bushes in question that are currently cut down, as you saw, to the equivalent of limbs, branches. This is not something that is going to easily accommodate growth. That 1-foot variance is to help make sure that those bushes do not die. Because if they do, then out of my own pocket, I'm going to have to replace 8 hedges. And when I checked prices on them at Home Depot over on Brook Park Road and Lowe's right over in Ridge Park Square, those bushes were $90 a pop. Times the 8 bushes in question, that is going to come to a grand total of more than $720 out of my own pocket that I would have to take out to replace those bushes if they were to die. And it is my opinion that that 1-foot variance, allowing them to grow back, will permit them to regain strength. They'll be able to maintain their function as bushes. We can accommodate the neighbor, make sure that she has a reasonable ability to see out of her driveway, and be able to live amicably within our neighborhood. That's the only hope I would ask the members of this board to consider in their deliberation for granting the 1-foot variance on this ordinance. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett, this is Kevin Butler. Would you permit me to respond to a couple of the points that James Columbro raised in his presentation?
To protect the desired characteristics of existing residential development and to promote the most desirable and beneficial use of the land. To ensure, yeah.
Sorry, Mr.
I
Columbro.
love your purpose. I think it's wonderful. And granting this variance is certainly not contrary to that purpose. Oh, I should stop? I'm sorry. Here, I'll mute.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You all need to be patient with him. He truly is hearing impaired. So just understand that it's very difficult when you can't hear to have screens switching back and forth and numerous people talking at a time. So please be considerate. Like, ADA policy, human rights policy. So please, I don't want people laughing, snickering, or getting frustrated with somebody who has a hearing impairment. It's a true deficit.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Regis, this is Kevin Butler. May I respond? Would you yield the floor so I can respond to a couple of points that James Columbro raised in his presentation?
Yes, go ahead, do that, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. I just want to let the board members know, just in response to a couple of points, living fence is a defined term in the Brooklyn codified ordinances. It's in the zoning code itself. It's defined in 110901F. That's letter F as in Frank, number 27. And it means a grouping of plants, including but not limited to hedges, shrubs, bushes, or trees, arranged and or growing in such a manner as to enclose, secure, partially enclose or secure, or provide privacy for, decorate, define, or enhance all or any part of a lot. And so I just want to provide that legal definition. Mr. Columbro raises a legal point, really not a point so much with respect to the test for a variance, but he raises the legal point that the hedges in question may not be a living fence. I don't believe that the board could make that finding under our existing ordinances. So I do believe a variance to the cited code section with respect to a 3-foot maximum for a living fence is in order. That, I'm not suggesting I support the variance. I don't take an opinion on that. But certainly in my opinion, Mr. Columbro needs to obtain a variance, and you would not be able to make a finding, in my opinion, that this is not a living fence. This is indeed a living fence under our code. So that's an important point to raise. The other point to raise is that with every inch of growth, the Columbros lose the argument that this is an existing nonconformity. In fact, what's before you is not that this is a nonconformity. What's before you is that this is a request for a variance. If Mr. Columbro wished to argue that this was not that this was a pre-existing nonconformity, that is to say that the fence pre-existed the creation of the regulation with respect to the 3-foot height limit, he could make that argument separately, but he cannot do that in the context of a request for a variance, which is what he's doing tonight. He's requesting a variance. Either he needs to withdraw his request for a variance altogether, and he can try to make an argument to the building commissioner that this is an existing nonconformity, or he's going to have to seek the variance, and you'll have to give him a thumbs up or a thumbs down on that. So my only suggestion to the board is, since there is opposition here, it makes sense to take him through the test for a variance if he is indeed interested in continuing to pursue that. If he wants to withdraw the application right now, ostensibly he could do that, but then he'd have to make an argument before the city that this was an existing nonconformity. I think that would be somewhat difficult, candidly, because this is a living fence and not a fixed structure. But he could make that. He could try to make that argument, and we would have to deal with that separately. The last point I want to raise, Mr. Columbro, pardon me. The last point I want to raise is that the complainant here is not a neighbor. The complainant here is the city. By and through its building department. The neighbor may have been the original person to call the city and maybe in contact.
Okay. May I?
Mr. Columbro, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Columbro, just thank you very much. You muted. I appreciate that. The original complainant may have been a neighbor, but the actual complainant here and the entity that gave rise to the request for a variance is the city. The neighbor could remove her objection to the fence height as it stands today, but still the city is in a position to enforce its code. And if 4 feet is too tall under an ordinance that requires 3 feet, there's still going to be a requirement for a variance, and the city is going to enforce that code. So we're not in a position to relax the standard merely because a neighbor withdrew her complaint, if that indeed were to happen. So those are the points I want to raise. They're legal points. They're sort of fine points, but I just wanted the record to be clear on that. And then Mr. Kulsar, I did have one question, and that is the photograph, Mr. Kulsar, that was presented as part of the record of a city vehicle in the neighbor's driveway next to the cut hedgerow. Not the photos that Mr. Columbro provided, but the photos that we provided to the board. Is that hedgerow at the point where your car is parked next to it? Is that in conformity with the code? In other words, is that 3 feet or lower, or is it still 4 feet? Because I think there was a lack of clarity on that point.
Yeah, that picture represents its current state, which is approximately 3 feet, and it's fine like that.
So if the fence were to remain at the height, so for the remainder of the side yard and the front yard, if that fence were trimmed down to that height that you have reflected in that photo, and maybe Dawn could put it up on the screen, the one where the blue car is next to the fence, if it were to remain at that height, then no variance would be requested or necessary. Is that Mr. Kulsar, what you're saying?
That's exactly it, Mr. Butler.
Okay. If, on the other hand, the Columbros wanted to keep the fence higher along the side of the house or up to some point in front of the house, they could still seek a variance, and perhaps it wouldn't be as difficult to grant that variance so long as a driver could still. So that's a 3-foot fence, Mr. Kulsar. That's what we're looking at, correct?
That's correct.
Up until the point where it's taller back towards the house. And that, of course, is more of like a 4 or 5 foot fence, right?
Right, that's right.
So as it stands in that photo, no variance is needed. I understand Mr. Columbro is still trying to get a variance to go higher than that, but if the hedge were to stay at that height, then no variance would be needed.
That is right, but since this has been brought up and Mr. Blom, raised the fact that the 3-foot maximum height is the standard along the side of the house also. So in the side yard and as well as the front yard.
So I guess it would make sense, in my opinion, Mr. Kulsar, if we asked Mr. Columbro whether or not he could live with the hedgerow not exceeding the height that we see in that photo. In other words, withdraw any application for a variance for that portion of the fence.
Before that, sure.
Is that a question?
Well, I guess so. And if Mr. Barrett, if you'll just indulge me, is that okay? If Mr. Columbro, would you mind answering that? Are you okay with the fence staying that high back to the point where it gets higher?
No, I am not okay with that. Let me just say 2 other things. It's Mr. Butler, right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Butler, I agree with you. A non-conforming use is not going to work in this situation. Not only is it not a physical structure for which someone would use non-conformity, but I've already brought it within conformity. So I can't use the non-conforming use section of the ordinances. I agree with you. I need a variance. Now, the reason I need a variance from requesting one is because if those bushes come back and they grow, do I have to respond to the city again when the neighbor brings it to their attention? I agree with Mr. Butler. The parties here are the city and the Columbros, the owners of that parcel. But The city would not have even brought their attention to that, but for the complainant, the next door neighbor, who doesn't like 4 feet because it was already at 4 feet. And that's why I brought it to 3 feet, just to satisfy the city and to show my good faith that I'm willing to do it. But no, Mr. Butler, the answer to your question, I am not happy with a 3-foot growth. I'll continue to have to cut the thing down. And I don't have a trimmer that's going to cut that kind of a bush. I got to get in there with snippers, the ones you use to cut padlocks off of fences. No, I respectfully submit that the variance is necessary, not unreasonable, of no harm to Nikita or the neighbors, and certainly doesn't hurt the neighborhood. Forgive me. Go ahead.
But as you see that picture there, the 3 foot is like at the bottom of the window. You go another foot, it's gonna block.
Yeah, I don't mean to speak over you, but you know, we gotta consider, where are you measuring 3 feet? From the base of the bush, from the sidewalk, from the concrete, or from the ground? Those bushes, that photo that's up right now, that's 3 feet from the driveway. That's right up to her door. So I've got maybe an inch to go before it's at, strike that. You're right. Mr. Colsar was right. That's 3 feet. I want a variance for another foot so that when it grows, I don't have to answer a frivolous complaint of my neighbor that I'm in violation again, because then I'll have to do this whole thing over. I'm muting. Thank you.
Mr. Farkas, would you mind saying what you were about to say again so the record's clear? Thanks.
Well, if it's at 3 feet right now, it's right at the bottom of the window. I mean, you go another foot, it's gonna cover the window. I mean, you're backing out. I don't think it's so much as far as traffic in the street. I think it's the right of way as far as the walkway. If a child is walking through there, you're not gonna see a little kid walking down that sidewalk if you're behind that bush and it's another foot high. That's my concern.
I think a child walking on the sidewalk would have a more difficult time negotiating the sticks and stubs sticking out from that bush. That blue car can back all the way up to the sidewalk and see plenty. There's no safety hazard here.
I agree.
You're trying to give Nikita the convenience of opening her car door. No. You want me to destroy my bushes. You're taking my property without due process here. I need the variance in order to keep the bushes, protect the neighborhood, and maintain the aesthetic look of that property as it blends with the rest of the neighborhood.
But the car door has nothing to do with this situation. Whether the bush is 3 foot or 5 foot, the car door is still gonna be there.
Yeah, the car door is still. I agree. Your concern, Mr. Farkas, I think, is looking out the driver's window when you're backing out.
Yes.
Yeah, well, if you were in that car, you would take the time and be careful doing it, just like anybody else that drives an automobile or any licensee invitee that comes upon those premises. Sorry, this is not our problem.
I'm gonna, it looks like Nikita, the neighbor, is on. Can we give her an opportunity to express her concerns?
Sure, so long as we recognize Mr. Butler's premise that this is a complaint for a variance between the city and the Columbros. Go ahead, Nikita.
Why don't we swear Nikita in, please, Dawn? Thanks.
Hold on one second, let me pull it back up. I don't have it memorized.
I can do it. Nikita, this is Kevin Butler, Law Director. Can you raise your right hand? Are you going to testify about this matter?
Yes.
Okay. Is the testimony you're going to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I unfortunately, I mean, I'm sorry that we've come to this situation, but I do respectfully disagree, with the Columbros. I agree with Mr. Farkas. That has nothing to do with, me opening my door. That is probably always going to be an issue, but that's my issue. My concern is that you can't see backing out of the driveway at all. I have requested in the past and spoken to the neighbor and had asked that the bushes be trimmed down. And unfortunately, that did not happen. And so they just continued to grow and grow and they got out of hand. And so, for me, I'm like, it would be nice to see oncoming, especially if you're sitting in the driver's side, like you can't see anything, especially when those bushes do grow back and all the greenery is there. It actually makes things a lot worse. So that's what I'd like to say. I appreciate this matter being brought to the attention. And I agree with the city. Unfortunately, I would prefer to stay within the ordinances that are presented. Thank you.
Thanks.
Somebody asked her if she's gonna be happy with 4 feet.
I'm sorry, Mr. Colombo. One moment, please. Mr. Barrett, I'm not taking over your meeting. I just want to make sure Nikita does what everyone else had to do. Would you kindly, Nikita, unmute and just state your full name and address for the record, please?
My name is Narkita Guzman, and my address is 7419 Del Bank Drive, Brooklyn, Ohio, 44144.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Barrett, it's your meeting. I'm sorry to have hijacked it.
That's quite all right. Based on my opinion, is from this point to watch the arguments and everything that I'm inclined to deny the request for a variance and let it go as it's been determined to meet the code. But it's an old hedge. It gets pretty solid at the down bottom, closer you get to the ground. That's not going to change. But yeah, Wally.
I'm just curious where the property line runs by that driveway and by that hedgerow going back. Whether the hedge is right on the property line or over it or what. And Mr. Colombo said that they cut down 2 feet of that hedgerow to get to the 3 foot, which means they were at 5 foot to begin with anyhow. Which is, he's trying to get a foot. He's trying to get a foot back. And I think 4 foot is, I don't think that would work. I think it's got to stay at 3.
I can give a GIS overview over the property lines if you guys would like me to show you, which they're not too exact survey results, but it gives you an idea of where property lines are.
Mm-hmm.
Would any of the members like to see that?
What?
I wouldn't object.
On that also.
Mr. Colsters. Go ahead.
Thank you. With regard to the property line, we really will not be able to get any kind of true determination of it, nor can we really have any kind of thoughts behind dictating, whose property it is on. So I just ask that you really kind of disregard that. The owners, they're responsible for knowing where the property line's at. If they have dispute, it is a civil matter. And the neighbor does have the ability to trim anything that does encroach, from the shrubs on the neighboring property. So I would just ask that you let that one lie, Wally. Thank you.
And just so you're aware, Mr. Colster is having some technical difficulties with his computer. He is using speakerphone in my office.
I know Mr. Colombo's worried about the bushes surviving. Has he bothered to check with a landscaper to maybe give him an honest opinion on, how safe it is to cut the bush down and still have it survive? And there may be a mute point that it's going to come back without a problem.
I'm sorry, was there another question?
I think Mr. Parker asked a question in regards to, have you contacted a landscaper to see about how to trim the bushes and have them live?
Oh, you're asking us if we have asked a landscaper how to revive those bushes. Is that the question? The answer is no. We have not contacted a landscaper. We have taken it upon ourselves to trim them. We've tried to bring them down to satisfy our neighbor. Being still unsatisfied, we got cited. We brought them within code, and I'm still asking for the variance. But no, my game plan is a lot of miracle grow and perhaps get them to be bushy instead of height. We'll keep them down height-wise. Michael's already promised you that. I'm going to mute again if there's another question.
I think we've it's around about enough right now. So I'm going to make a motion that we deny the variance.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny the 1 foot height variance to the maximum allowable height of 3 feet for a living fence. Regis Barrett? This is to deny.
Yes.
Wally Parker?
Yes.
Earl Bloom?
Yes.
Craig Farkas?
Yes.
And then Nick DeLeon.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it possible that I can just ask one question in regards to the fence? I know that they're going to keep it at 3 feet at the top. Does that mean that they're going to shave the bushes on the side if it falls on my property?
Mr. Colson?
Nikita, yes, I will try in future to maintain my property line, your edge of your driveway, as best I can.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the question, Nikita?
So I was asking that, I know that you're going to keep it within the 3 feet as in height, but I was asking if you were going to make sure that they were cut down on the side like you did this summer. I wanted to clarify. I'm sorry, what the noise, my son. I wanted to clarify that if they were going to be trimmed on the side if they fell on my property line.
You're asking to clarify what? I can't hear you. There's noise on your end. Say it again. Please.
Nikita, let me say it. Let me say this.
All right,
Dave,
Michael, go.
He asked was, will the bushes be trimmed along the property line, along her edge of the driveway, along my side of the property? And the answer to that is yes. I will try to maintain the line of the driveway back to her garage.
Of course, there are bushes. But if, all right. So.
All right, this item has been voted on. Can we move on to the next docket item, if that's okay with everyone?
What's okay with everyone?
Your docket item has been denied. Your variance has been denied.
Oh, okay.
And we would like to move forward onto our next item.
All right.
Okay. If anyone was part of that discussion and would like to.
Point of clarification, if I might.
Sure.
With my application being denied, does that mean that the 3 foot limit is going to be enforced by the city? Yes or no?
Dave?
The reason being, I maintain a renter's license, and now Marty's on notice that these bushes have to be maintained at 3. So instead of citing me under the 17 section, he cites me under the 13 section.
I'm
I'm
not
sorry.
sure. Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Colombo, the variance was denied. You are going to be held to the standards that are set in that zoning code.
mute. So when you deny my renter's license, what's my recourse? Do I appeal again to the board?
I can't hear.
Mr. Columbro, that's not a, Mr. Columbro, I'll say this, that's not a matter that's before this particular board. I would encourage you to call us tomorrow and we can talk about any other issues that are not before this board, including the renter's license issue or whatever other matters you'd like to discuss.
Yeah, we can.
The board has voted on your
All right.
and I'd like to make sure that they get to the next agenda item. Thank you.
Okay, I make a motion that we
Hold on, Regis.
terminate the meeting.
Unfortunately, Regis, we have one more item on the agenda. So I have to go through that one, okay? If
What's
anyone
that?
was with the last docket item, you're more than welcome to
All
leave,
right.
but I'm gonna go ahead and move forward with the meeting. So your next item on the agenda is a
Go
request,
ahead.
Robert Dugan Jr., attorney for DMAC Realty LLC, for a variance of the paving requirements for a parking lot at 7332 Associates Avenue, permanent parcel 431-13065, docket 1/2021-2.
I thought that was dropped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought that was dropped.
We still have to bring it up in the meeting, and the
Okay.
applicant, Dave is going to move forward with the rest of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just stating that the applicant had requested that that be deferred until the next meeting.
So we just have to get it on record.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Now, is there anything else that is going to come before the board? Do we have to defer that? Vote for deferral? Kevin?
You don't have to. If there's no objection to deferring, there's no reason to take a vote.
Okay, perfect. All right. So anything else before the zoning board?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
My goodness. All right, so I'm gonna take that as Wally and Earl. And then motion to adjourn, Regis,
Yes.
Yeah.
Wally to adjourn.
Yes. Yes.
Earl,
yes.
thank you. Craig,
Yes.
thank you. And Nick De Leon,
Yes.
thank you very much, everyone.
Right all.